The federal courthouse in Washington, D.C., buzzed with anticipation as media crews, lawyers, and political staffers filled the marble halls, adjusting cameras, testing microphones, and clutching notebooks in preparation for what was expected to be a routine congressional hearing on the Protecting Voting Rights Act. Yet the air was thick with tension, heavy with whispers of past voting restrictions and political battles. Judge Andrew Napolitano, a 74-year-old former Fox News analyst known for his stern demeanor, took his seat behind the massive wooden bench, confident his authority would go unquestioned. Across from him, 43-year-old Congresswoman Jasmine Crockett, a former civil rights attorney, carried a thick binder of meticulously prepared evidence, her calm expression concealing fierce determination. When Napolitano issued a $500 contempt fine intending to silence her, the courtroom went dead silent, but Crockett's resolve only set the stage for an extraordinary confrontation. Rather than backing down, she accepted the citation with deliberate composure and immediately challenged its legal basis, reminding everyone that, as a member of Congress, she was protected under the Speech or Debate Clause, which shields legislators from being questioned about their legislative speech. Her firm yet respectful voice demanded attention, prompting Republican committee members to frantically text their legal teams while Democrats leaned forward, sensing a historic moment. Napolitano's confident demeanor shifted to pale unease as Crockett carefully presented her reasoning, demonstrating legal clarity that rivaled the very judge attempting to silence her. The courtroom buzzed with tension. Reporters whispered, clerks typed furiously, and seasoned observers realized they were witnessing a confrontation that could redefine judicial and congressional boundaries. With every measured word, Crockett underscored the seriousness of the contempt ruling while exposing its potential constitutional violations, shifting the balance of authority and signaling that Napolitano's assumed control would no longer go unchallenged. Crockett didn't stop with constitutional arguments. Shifting gears, she pulled a tablet from her briefcase with deliberate precision, commanding the courtroom's attention as she presented evidence of Judge Napolitano's financial conflicts of interest, revealing he held nearly $1 million in stock in Brennan and Associates, a law firm whose primary work involved challenging voting rights legislation. Chaos erupted as she systematically laid out the connections. Payments from the Republican National Committee to the firm, private strategy sessions with operatives, and emails showing Napolitano's advice on crafting arguments against the Protecting Voting Rights Act. Reporters furiously typed, cameras zoomed on every reaction, and members of Congress exchanged stunned glances. Republican committee members shouted objections, but Crockett remained calm, each statement precise and backed by verifiable documentation, exposing not only potential violations of judicial ethics, but deliberate manipulation of the legal system for personal gain. Napolitano's composure crumbled, face ashen, hands trembling, voice faltering. While the $500 contempt citation meant to assert authority now symbolized judicial vulnerability. Within minutes of the courtroom recess, videos of Crockett exposing Napolitano's conflicts went viral, flooding social media with clips, memes, slow-motion replays, and expert commentary. News outlets scrambled. CNN headlined, "Congresswoman exposes judge's financial conflicts in real time." Fox News reported the humiliation of their former analyst, and MSNBC framed it as a masterclass in constitutional advocacy. Democrats seized the moment to push for stronger judicial ethics reforms, while conservative scholars and even some Republican committee members acknowledged the severity of the allegations. Calls for investigation came from all directions, with social media endorsements from politicians like Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez and measured statements from Senator Ted Cruz. Behind the scenes, congressional investigators scrutinized Napolitano's financial records. The FBI opened a preliminary probe, and the Department of Justice reviewed potential criminal charges. In mere hours, Crockett had transformed a single courtroom confrontation into a national dialogue on judicial ethics, accountability, and the protection of democracy, proving that meticulous preparation and fearless advocacy could disrupt even the most entrenched institutions. In the days following the hearing, Jasmine Crockett became a household name across legal and political circles, receiving invitations from prestigious law schools such as Harvard, Yale, and Stanford to deliver guest lectures on constitutional law, judicial ethics, and advocacy. The American Bar Association extended a rare invitation for her to give the keynote address at their annual convention, while her colleagues in Congress, including seasoned lawmakers, openly acknowledged they had never witnessed such a precise and fearless dismantling of judicial authority. Offers from major law firms promising seven-figure partnerships and universities offering endowed chairs flooded her office. Yet she politely declined, insisting her work in Congress had only just begun. Beyond personal accolades, her confrontation with Judge Napolitano ignited a broader public conversation about judicial accountability. Investigative journalists scrutinized other federal judges' financial holdings, prompting several to recuse themselves from voting rights cases due to conflicts of interest, while congressional Democrats announced hearings on judicial ethics reform, and progressive organizations emphasized the urgent need to strengthen transparency and protect voting rights. Crockett's example demonstrated that a young, knowledgeable advocate could hold even the most powerful individuals accountable, inspiring leaders of color and young advocates to challenge entrenched systems and demand transparency. The aftermath triggered a whirlwind of investigations. Congressional investigators examined Napolitano's financial disclosures. The FBI initiated a preliminary probe into potential judicial corruption, and the Department of Justice considered possible federal charges, signaling repercussions far beyond a single contempt citation. Other judges with similar financial ties recused themselves from cases affecting voting rights, highlighting systemic vulnerabilities, while progressive lawmakers leveraged the moment to advocate for stricter ethics rules and enhanced oversight, forcing conservative experts and political figures to publicly acknowledge the severity of the allegations. The Republican National Committee faced scrutiny over its influence on federal legal proceedings, and the public, energized by Crockett's courage and mastery, began paying unprecedented attention to voting rights, turning what might have been a routine hearing into a national conversation about democracy, transparency, and accountability. Within weeks, proposals for legislative reform and judicial oversight gained renewed momentum, proving that a single, well-prepared advocate could not only defend the law, but also reshape the political and judicial landscape, providing a blueprint for how facts, preparation, and fearless advocacy can challenge entrenched power, inspire reform, and restore public trust in institutions meant to protect democracy. Jasmine Crockett's courtroom victory did more than topple a single judge. It cemented her status as a formidable leader with both legal acumen and political savvy, quickly transforming her into a symbol of what a prepared, courageous, and principled advocate could achieve, inspiring young politicians and lawyers across the nation. Her mastery of constitutional law and fearless defense of voting rights positioned her as a potential contender for higher office, with conversations circulating about Senate bids, future presidential runs, and even a possible Supreme Court nomination, roles where her intellect, ethics, and advocacy could have transformative impact. Yet beyond titles, her true legacy lay in demonstrating that entrenched systems of power are not untouchable. By exposing the intertwining of financial interests, political influence, and judicial authority, she showed that accountability is possible when knowledge, preparation, and moral clarity converge. Her actions challenged traditional hierarchies, proving that young leaders, especially from historically marginalized communities, could confront established authority and effect meaningful change, reshaping expectations of congressional advocacy and inspiring lawmakers to approach legislation and oversight with renewed rigor and courage. The courtroom showdown became more than a legal drama. It became a defining moment in American politics, a case study in preparation, the importance of standing up to authority, and the enduring impact of fearless, fact-based advocacy. The confrontation sparked a nationwide reckoning, Judicial ethics came under unprecedented scrutiny, with lawmakers, advocacy groups, and legal experts pushing for reforms to prevent conflicts of interest and ensure judges remain impartial arbiters of the law. Financial disclosure requirements were reviewed and strengthened. Courts implemented procedures to identify potential conflicts before cases were assigned, and oversight committees developed protocols to prevent judicial involvement where personal gain could compromise impartiality. Meanwhile, voting rights advocacy surged, energized by Crockett's exposure of systemic suppression tactics, inspiring legislation to protect access to the ballot and reinforcing public awareness of how legal processes can be manipulated to disenfranchise voters. Across the political spectrum, lawmakers reconsidered the balance of power between elected officials, the judiciary, and private interests, emphasizing accountability and transparency, while media coverage and public discourse created a nationwide conversation about the integrity of democratic institutions. Universities and law schools began using the case as a foundational study in constitutional law, ethics, and legislative advocacy, providing future generations with a real-world example of how knowledge, courage, and preparation can confront entrenched power. In this way, Crockett's actions not only altered the immediate legal and political landscape, but also reshaped expectations for judicial conduct and civic engagement, leaving an enduring legacy that will influence policy, law, and leadership for years to come. Beyond the immediate legal and political consequences, Jasmine Crockett's Courtroom showdown became a defining narrative about leadership, courage, and accountability in modern America. From the moment she walked into the federal courthouse, it was clear this hearing would be different. Judge Napolitano, seasoned and confident, believed his $500 contempt citation would end any resistance, but Crockett arrived meticulously prepared, her binder of evidence reflecting years of work fighting voter suppression and systemic injustice. Methodically presenting cases of polling location closures, statistical analyses, and sworn affidavits from disenfranchised voters, she transformed routine testimony into a full-scale legal and moral reckoning. When Napolitano attempted to silence her, she responded with knowledge, precision, and constitutional authority, citing the speech or debate clause and judicial ethics standards, meeting every challenge with evidence-backed counterpoints that turned the courtroom into a stage where law, ethics, and politics collided. The drama escalated as she revealed Napolitano's financial conflict of interest, exposing nearly $1 million in stock tied to a firm opposing voting rights legislation, yet she maintained control, demonstrating how systemic power could be challenged through preparation, expertise, and integrity. The immediate aftermath saw media, lawmakers, and the public grappling with the implications. Judicial ethics reforms were fast-tracked, Brennan and Associates faced federal scrutiny, and Congress took steps to prevent similar conflicts of interest. In the weeks that followed, Crockett's fearless advocacy shaped nationwide discussions on judicial reform, voting rights protection, and the role of informed, courageous leadership in democracy. Her actions inspired universities, advocacy groups, and legal institutions to use the confrontation as a teaching moment in constitutional law, ethics, and civic responsibility, illustrating that knowledge and courage are formidable tools capable of exposing corruption and driving systemic change. Symbolically, she shattered assumptions about who can challenge entrenched power, proving that young leaders, especially those from historically marginalized communities, could confront established authority and effect meaningful change. Ultimately, Crockett's legacy extended far beyond the courtroom, reinforcing that principled, informed, and fearless advocacy can transform institutions, empower communities, and redefine the possibilities of modern leadership, leaving an enduring mark on American democracy.